For years, many of us have quietly accepted the idea that vitality fades with every birthday, that energy gets traded for experience, and that the best we can do after 60 is maintain what's left. But the body never fully agrees with that story. Even in maturity, it keeps responding to small, precise signals: nutrients, movement, light, rest. Today, I want to talk to you about one of those signals that lives inside the skin of grapes and a handful of other plants. It's called resveratrol. You've probably heard the buzz around it: longevity, heart health, brain protection. The truth is simpler and more useful. Resveratrol is not magic. It's a tool. Used intelligently, especially after 60, it can support circulation, sharpen brain function, steady blood sugar, reinforce bone strength, and calm the low-grade inflammation that makes everything feel older than it is. My goal is to show you exactly how it helps, what it cannot do, how to use it safely, and how to fit it into a day that already has enough routines. Let's start where aging makes itself felt first: circulation. Good circulation is not just about numbers on a blood pressure cuff. It's about how easily your blood vessels open when you ask your body to do simple things: walk to the door, climb 2 steps, carry a bag, share a dance. The inner lining of your blood vessels is a living tissue that releases tiny pulses of a relaxer called nitric oxide. Age, salt sensitivity, stress, and poorly controlled sugar make that lining less responsive. You feel it as heaviness in your legs, a quicker breath on slopes, colder hands and feet, and when you check your blood pressure at home, it creeps where you don't want it. Resveratrol speaks directly to that lining. In controlled studies, it has helped vessels widen more readily, and over weeks to months has nudged pressure downward in people who needed that shift. The point isn't that the capsule replaces a walk or your prescribed treatment. The point is that when your vessels relearn how to relax on command, your day gets bigger. Sidewalks feel shorter. Sleep feels deeper. Your morning numbers look friendlier. That's the kind of change you notice without needing a lab coat to interpret it. Just as blood vessels in your legs need to respond, so does the network feed in your brain. It's easy to think of memory as a folder of facts, but your brain works more like a city at night: lights turning on and off, signals rerouting, neighborhoods waking up as others rest. That choreography depends on blood flow that increases and decreases in the right places at the right time. As we get older, especially for women after menopause, those adjustments can lose some of their snap. That's where resveratrol has shown something rare for a supplement. In longer studies with older adults, it improved how well brain blood vessels responded to demand, and with that came measurable, practical gains in certain kinds of thinking and memory. People didn't become geniuses overnight, and not every test improved, but the direction was encouraging. The feeling many describe is a little more mental energy, less fuzziness in the afternoon, and an easier time finding words when speaking. That's not a miracle. That's better plumbing in a very delicate neighborhood. Now let's talk about blood sugar and the quiet erosion it causes when it runs too high for too long. Many people over 60 live with insulin resistance. Your cells hear the open signal from insulin like a muffled knock instead of a clear doorbell. The result is higher glucose, wear and tear on arteries, stiffer tissues, more fatigue after meals, and a body that stores more than it should. In trials focused on older adults with metabolic troubles, resveratrol helped lower fasting glucose and insulin and improved insulin sensitivity. That translates to steadier energy, less of that post-meal slump, and a kinder environment for your heart and your brain. If you've been told you're on the edge of diabetes or you already carry the diagnosis, this is a lever worth understanding. No one is asking you to replace your doctor's plan. A good plan welcomes allies, and resveratrol, used wisely, can be one. Bones deserve their own moment in this conversation, particularly if you're a woman past menopause. Bone is not a dry rock. It's a living tissue that listens to hormones, nutrients, and the tiny electric buzz generated when you move. When estrogen falls, bone tends to give up more calcium than it takes in, and the scaffolding inside the bone thins. Resveratrol has shown it can tilt that balance. In older women taking it regularly for months, hip and spine measurements moved in the right direction. Small, statistically real changes that matter when the goal is to walk confidently across a room at 80. If you've ever looked at a scan and felt powerless, it helps to remember that bone is not a verdict, it's a negotiation. Weight-bearing movement and protein are the main negotiators. Resveratrol sits quietly at the table and adds its voice in favor of structure. There is one more piece that ties these benefits together: the slow burn of inflammation and the rusting we call oxidative stress. You feel it as achy mornings, joints that complain after simple tasks, and a brain that tires sooner than it used to. Resveratrol came to fame in laboratory studies because it interacts with a set of cellular switches, some of them involved in energy production and stress defense, that help cells clean up, repair, and resist unnecessary inflammation. In people, the picture is more modest, but it still shows up where it counts. Older adults who took resveratrol for the long haul reported less day-to-day discomfort and a small lift in overall well-being. Think of it as turning down the background noise so you can hear your body's music again. At this point, you might be asking, if this is so promising, why isn't everyone over 60 taking it? Good question. Part of the answer is that resveratrol is not a cure, it's support. You still need the anchors: balanced meals with enough protein, daily movement that asks your legs and back to work, regular sleep, and, when prescribed, your medications. Another part is practicality: how to choose a form, how much to use, and how to avoid mistakes. The form that's actually been studied in humans is resveratrol, typically extracted from Japanese knotweed or grapes. Labels can be noisy, but 3 details matter: that it's resveratrol, that the brand is third-party tested for purity and dose, and that you can tolerate it without stomach upset. Most trials use daily amounts somewhere between what you could fit into 2 small capsules and what you might need a handful for. There is no universal best dose. Your health team can help you decide where to start. The goal is not to chase the highest number. It's to find the smallest amount that, combined with your habits, makes a difference you can feel and measure. About measuring. Your best friend here is a little routine. If your target is circulation, spend a month pairing resveratrol with a short, consistent walking plan and check your blood pressure at home in the same way each time. Seated, feet on the floor, arms supported, 2 readings averaged. If your goal is steadier sugar, look at fasting readings if you monitor them, or how you feel in that drowsy window 1 to 2 hours after meals. If you're focusing on brain energy, give yourself simple, repeatable tasks: a word recall list, a puzzle time, the ease of following a complex conversation. And notice whether those feel a touch smoother after a few weeks. Bones will ask for more patience. They change in seasons, not days. For them, consistency across months matters most. Safety deserves clear words. Resveratrol is generally well tolerated, but more is not always better. Large doses can upset the stomach. If you take warfarin or other blood thinners, or you've been told you have a bleeding disorder, Resveratrol may increase your risk of bleeding. This is not the place to experiment on your own. If you live with hormone-sensitive conditions, talk to your specialist before adding it. Resveratrol can behave like a very weak estrogen in some tissues, and you want your plan to be aligned with your history. If your kidneys or liver are not working well, you need personalized guidance. And one last practical note. Red wine does contain resveratrol, but in tiny, unpredictable amounts. Alcohol brings its own risks in later life. If you want the benefits we're talking about, look to foods and, if appropriate for you, a clean supplement, not the wine bottle.
Let's make this real with a few short portraits. Imagine Teresa, 68, who describes her legs as sleepy. Stairs leave her winded, and her evening blood pressures are often 10 points higher than in the morning. She doesn't like the idea of a bunch of pills, so her plan is as simple as it gets. She starts walking 15 minutes most days. With her clinicians okay, she adds a daily resveratrol capsule from a brand her pharmacist trusts. She keeps a small notebook by the cuff and checks her pressure 3 days a week. After a month, her numbers aren't perfect, but that evening climb settles closer to her morning baseline, and her walks feel less like a negotiation. The change is not dramatic, it's just consistent enough to matter.
Now picture Helen, 72, who worries about her memory. Names slip away. She loses the thread of a story in the middle. Her doctor checks for serious causes. None show. Together, they build a gentle plan. Regular sleep, 2 brisk walks per week, social time that challenges her attention, and resveratrol added to a breakfast she actually enjoys. She doesn't feel different in a week. By the 3rd month, she notices that she finds words faster in conversations with her granddaughter. Her crossword times nudge down. She doesn't credit any single piece of the plan. She credits the combination and the fact that she stuck with it.
Think of Samuel, 65, who has been told his sugar is borderline. He loves fruit and bread, and lunch used to be his sleepiest hour. He doesn't want to be ruled by food, so he chooses structure instead of restriction. A protein-centered breakfast, a walk before lunch, and after talking with his care team, resveratrol each morning. 3 months later, he still enjoys his food, but the heavy eyelids after meals have eased, and his lab numbers nudge in a direction he likes. It's not a miracle, it's physiology responding to consistent inputs.
Consider Rosa, 71, slender and resilient, whose bone scan whispered a warning. She lifts light weights twice a week, eats more yogurt and beans than before, and decides, with her provider, to include resveratrol. She knows this is a long game. A year later, her scan tells a quieter story than expected, and she notices something just as important. Carrying groceries up the stairs feels less precarious. That is Bone's way of saying thank you.
Finally, here's a portrait that matters because it reflects so many of us. A couple in their late 60s, cautious but curious. They want to do everything they can to keep their independence. They commit to few big things and many small ones. A daily walk, protein at breakfast, lights down at night, and a shared morning routine that includes their supplements. Resveratrol is part of that. Over a season, their home readings behave. Their legs feel more trustworthy on hills, and their conversations feel a little sharper. When their doctor says, "Whatever you're doing, keep doing it," they smile, because the what is not complicated. It's just steady.
So how do you actually use this information tomorrow? Start with your why. Do you want steadier pressure, a bit more mental snap, friendlier sugar, or stronger bones? Choose one primary goal. Talk with your clinician about whether resveratrol fits your situation, especially if you take blood thinners or have hormone-sensitive conditions. If it's a green light, pick a simple third-party tested resveratrol and begin with a modest daily amount you tolerate well. Pair it with one behavior that supports the same goal: a short walk and slow breathing for circulation, a sleep routine and mental challenges for brain function, a balanced plate and protein at each meal for sugar control, weight-bearing exercise for bone. Give the experiment 8 to 12 weeks and measure something that matters to you along the way. If you feel nothing and your numbers don't budge, you and your team can adjust those or decide to move on.
The win is not in chasing a miracle. It's in building a toolkit that your particular body responds to. There's a question people often ask in a whisper. Am I too late to see benefits? The honest answer is that biology rewards the next wise choice, not your birth year. Even at 70 or 80, your blood vessels can learn, your brain can adapt, your bones can listen, your sugar can smooth. Resveratrol won't do your living for you, but as part of a thoughtful routine, it can make the work of living in this body feel kinder. If I had to compress everything into one line you could carry in your pocket, it would be this. After 60, resveratrol is not a headline about immortality. It's a quiet, daily nudge that helps your circulation, your brain, your sugar, and your bones behave more like a body that still wants to do things.
If this resonates, choose one action you'll take before the day ends. Set a reminder to talk with your clinician. Pick a tested product if it fits your plan. Decide when you'll take it so you don't rely on memory. After breakfast often works well. Pair it with a 5-minute walk or a few slow chair stands. And if you know someone who has quietly accepted a smaller life because they think their body is done learning, share this message with them. Your future is still listening to the signals you sent today.